Okay, so today we're going to be talking about eukaryotic cells and microorganisms. Um, we know that eukaryotic cells have a nucleus. They have membrane-bound organelles, and they essentially make up all complex life forms. So, all right, there are different types of eukaryotic organisms that we studied in chapter 5, essentially. Um, and in microbiology, that's going to be your fungi, your protozoa, your algae, and your helminths. Um, Again, going back to eukaryotic cell and just kind of let me let me move myself really quick so we can kind of see the picture there. Sorry about that. Um, we know that eukaryotic cells can be multicellular or unicellular. Um, They are larger and more complex than prokaryotic cells, um, and they're so unique that no single cell can serve as an example. We know that, again, just kind of reiterating myself and going back over this, they've got a cell membrane, they've got a nucleus, they've got mitochondria, an endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi apparatus, the vacuoles, the cytoskeleton, and the glycocalyx. All right, on to the cilia and the flagella. Um, we know that the cilia and the flagella kind of help with motility or movement. They are on the outside of the cell and they extend from the surface, um, and they're made up of microtubules and they're covered by the cell membrane. It doesn't really go into a whole lot of detail in the textbook about this, but this was kind of some outside research. Their movement is powered by dynein. Um, All right, on to the glycocalyx. We know that um, it's the outermost boundary that comes in direct contact with the environment. The structure is sometimes called the extracellular matrix, and it's composed of polysaccharides and appears as network fibers, a slime layer, and a capsule. It provides protection and adherence to cell surfaces. All right, we're going to talk about some more boundary structures. We've got the cell wall. Um, that kind of acts as a permeable membrane, allowing stuff to um, essentially come in or out of the cell. Um, in fungi, it's a little bit different. They have an inner layer of polysaccharide fibers composed of, um, I want to say, I hope this is how I say this, but chitin or cellulose and an outer layer of mixed glycans. Um, Onto the cytoplasmic reticulum. It's got a typical bilayer of phospholipids, and again, it kind of serves as selectively permeable barriers. All right, on to the nucleus. It is the control center, essentially. It stores the DNA. It has a compact sphere that is most prominent. It's the most prominent organelle in eukaryotic cells. It's got the nucleoplasm, and it's a site for ribosomal RNA synthesis and a collection area for ribosomal subunits. All right, we have here basically kind of like a life cycle, and we know that that life cycle is due to mitosis. Um, so here we've got interphase, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. And you can just kind of see in this little diagram here kind of what's going on in all the different phases that they go through in order to get to the end destination there. All right, the endoplasmic reticulum, a passageway in the cell. It's a series of tunnels used for transport and storage. There are two kinds of endoplasmic reticulum in that. It is the rough endoplasmic reticulum and then the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. The rough endoplasmic reticulum has ribosomes, and it makes lipids and detoxifies. And then the smooth ER, or the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, it has no ribosomes whatsoever, and it, um, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. The rough ER has ribosomes and helps make proteins. The smooth ER has no ribosomes and makes lipids and detoxifies. All right, on to the Golgi apparatus. It packages basically and ships proteins. It's also called the Golgi complex or the Golgi body. It's the site in the cell where proteins are modified and then sent to their final destinations. It consists of a stack of several flattened disc-shaped sacs called cisternae, and it's always closely related to the endoplasmic reticulum. I put another little diagram in here. It is basically the transport process, and you can just see that it goes from the nucleus to the rough endoplasmic reticulum to the Golgi apparatus to the vesicles, and then the secretion. So you can kind of see again how that moves itself. All right, on to mitochondria. When we talk about mitochondria, we're talking about the energy generators of the cell. They produce the ATP, or the energy, obviously. It is generated in most eukaryotes. It's the powerhouse of the cell, like we've learned in, other science classes. It consists of a smooth, continuous outer membrane that forms the external contour and an inner folded membrane nestled neatly inside the outer membrane. The folds on the inner membrane are called cristae, and they may be tubular or folded into shelf-like bands. All right, on to ribosomes. The ribosomes are distributed throughout the cell and scattered freely in the cytoplasm and cytoskeleton. Others are attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum. They are arranged in short chains called polyribosomes. Eukaryotic ribosomes are the staging areas for protein synthesis, essentially. All right, so we're going to talk about fungi now. We know that fungi is a major group of the eukaryotic organisms, and that's kind of what we're shifting to. We're shifting to talking about the eukaryotic organisms. We also know that fungi has approximately 3 to 4 million species of, and can be subdivided into two groups, microscopic and macroscopic. All fungi are heterotrophic. They acquire nutrients from a wide variety of organic materials or substrates. This includes like yeasts, molds, algae, things of that nature. They can also be parasites, meaning that they live on the bodies of animals or plants. But some of them could require a host, a living host. All right. Fungi have enzymes that can digest an assortment of materials like feather, hair, cellulose, wood, rubber, and petroleum products. You can kind of see this. I don't know if anybody has ever been hunting or anything like that, but a lot of places that you see stuff like this are kind of on trees. You can kind of see when you're in the woods, like the breakdown of the wood. So I think that that's pretty neat. Here I've got a little bit of a visual for you, I guess, on fungi and how they grow on strawberries and raspberries. That's something that we see every day. We can see that in our fridge, obviously. All right, the organization of fungi. They grow in loose associations or colonies. They have hyphae, I hope I'm saying that right, that makes up the body or colony, and it's called mycelium. They are divided into segments, and they can be based on structure or also classified to their particular function, and how they move, how they reproduce, all that good stuff. These microorganisms, fungi especially, they play a vital role in ecosystems. All right, on to protists. Here we're talking about the algae and protozoa. They have been combined, obviously, into the subkingdoms algae and subkingdoms Protozoa. And got two good pictures showing both and showing what they look like. All right, on to algae. We've got photosynthetic protists. Algae occurs as single cells as colonies in filamentous forms. Algae are widespread inhabitants of fresh and marine waters. They produce about 70% of Earth's oxygen, and I thought that was extremely awesome when I was learning about that. That was really neat to me, just knowing how big a role that they play in our ecosystem and producing oxygen. So they also play an essential role in aquatic food webs. They absorb carbon dioxide and they help remove pollutants from water bodies. All right, they're categorized based on their pigmentation, structure, and habitat. All right, on to the protozoa. We know that they're unicellular heterotrophs categorized by how they move. They can sometimes cause disease in humans and animals. The major groups include amoeboids, flagellates, ciliates, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, but sporozoans, which means that they don't move. They're non-motile. Protozoa reproduce by both asexual and sexual methods. All right, you can kind of see here the general life cycle of many protozoa. Again, I want to talk about, before we go any further, I want to talk about kind of the importance of these eukaryotic organisms or microorganisms. I know I've said a lot that they, do add value to our ecosystems and they're essential, but, the algae produce oxygen and then the fungi decompose of organic matter. All right, on to the helminths. We've got different things there like tapeworms, flukes, roundworms. They are essentially called or have those names due to the Greek word meaning worm. All helminths are multicellular animals equipped to some degree with organs and organ systems. Their adult forms are visible to the naked eye, but their eggs and larvae are microscopic. Most helminths have a highly developed reproductive potential, thick cuticles for protection, and mouth glands for breaking down host tissues. All right, I've kind of put a little bit of a visual here, and you can kind of see what that looks like as a helminth right there. All right, so we're continuing on with the helminths. They follow a cycle that involves eggs, larval stages, and adult worms. They can be direct or indirect, and they're classified according to their shape, their size, their degree of development, and various organs. So we can kind of see basically we can kind of see here like a pattern, I guess you want to say. A lot of these are characterized by, how they move, their appearance, how they're, structurally made, stuff like that. So in the bottom here, I included an example of a helminth life cycle or a roundworm life cycle. Essentially, it starts with the eggs in the feces, and then what happens is that gets ingested. The eggs get ingested, and then the larvae can hatch in the intestines, and then they migrate to the lungs and travel to the intestines, and then mature and lay eggs, and then it basically cycles all over again and happens all over again. All right, so in conclusion, we know that eukaryotic cells have a nucleus and organelles, making them complex. They are also considered one of the three domains of life. Eukaryotic organisms like protists, fungi, and algae, they do play key roles in nature, medicine, and industry. Really the world wouldn't be what it is without these eukaryotic microorganisms. Can you imagine if we didn't have, algae or things like that? I mean, there would just be no oxygen whatsoever. So we know that they can be unicellular or multicellular, which means they can have one single cell or they can have multiple. three of the major colonizers are fungi, protozoa, and helminths. And eukaryotic organisms, like I just basically stated, they play key roles in nature, medicine, and industry. So yeah, basically, as far as industrial use, yeast can help make bread, beer, and biofuels. As far as medically, um, some of these eukaryotic cells cause disease, while others make antibiotics. So it's kind of like a a balance there, basically. So I think that is the end of my presentation, and I appreciate your listening. Thanks. Have a great day.